Hey folks, it's Paul here from the Cult of Cantona. Hope you're keeping well. Just jumping on to have a little dissection of the FC Twente. FC Twente? 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 20? FC 20. Looking at the FC Twente with 2020 vision, I suppose, today. Looking back afterwards and having a little dissection of what went wrong, and I suppose it's a kind of classic kind of giant killing, typical kind of FA Cup esque type tie, where United felt as if they could, turn up and win. The weather, I think, didn't help. Multi millionaires don't like the rain, as history has taught us. And I think it was just a case of their fans being, a force of nature. I think that there was an ever so slight psychological edge um, through Ten Hag's association with the club. I think that it was just a bit of a dodgy night for United. There's no two ways about it. I do feel sorry for Christian Eriksen. I think he did an incredible job over the last 3 or 4 days, really proving that he still has something to offer at a time when people were wondering whether or not he had a place at Old Trafford anymore. So, um, really, surprised that he made such a huge kind of schoolboy error, in terms of um, his kind of wayward getting caught on the ball, kind of when he got intercepted like that. You have to give credit where it's due. I mean, you're talking about a team that in Twente that haven't played in any European competition in like 11 years, haven't exactly set the Eredivisie on fire since Steve McLaren left. So it's kind of, for all intents and purposes, it's kind of like a league game playing against a Burnley or a Brentford or a mid-table team who just kind of didn't give up. And I think if you had watched Ten Hag's presser afterwards, you'd know that he said that they wanted it more, and that's kind of it. It's a mentality thing. He mentioned it himself that maybe the players need to up their mentality. They need to realize that there's no easy games. I think also the new format of the Europa League was also something that um, the players are aware of. So they're aware that they can have a couple of bad games, finish kind of mid-table that um, within that structure, and still be considered to get through to the knockout stages later in the competition. Um, so looking at the squad overall, rather the team last night, look, Bruno Fernandes hasn't been playing particularly well over the last couple of games. It's no measure of his whole career, of course. So I think Eric Ten Hag, in general terms, falls on his own swords of his decisions, insofar as he rewards loyalty. He's been doing that with Marcus Rashford, which seemed to be paying off, but then again makes that bizarre decision to drop him, just when he seems to be hitting some sort of form. Um, and then Bruno should have been taken off. He should have been taken off at half time, and Eric being Eric could have made up some excuse saying that he was carrying a little bit of a knock, so we took him off just to be safe. Um, but his loyalty to those two players sometimes confuses me. Also, what confuses me is when we've had a degree of success over the last couple of games. You're looking at the likes of Delict and Martinez, together look like a very strong partnership. Um, I'm very. I understand the rotation side of things. They a large squad that's has quality in every position and two players challenging for every position should rotate. But I think what Eric has done now is gone from one extreme to the other, um, where he's rotating players who need to have stability and self belief in their positions in order to progress. So, what I'd say, Harry Maguire didn't look terrible at all last night. There was one particular challenge down in the far corner at the away end, and he looked well able to hold his own against a player in his early 20s. You'd have to say he looked up for it. I don't necessarily have an issue with the way that he's playing. It's less about that. It's a similar thing with Johnny Evans. When Johnny Evans comes on, yeah, by all means, it's great to see him come on. But I don't want to see him starting over Delict. I don't want to see him starting over Martinez if they're fit. The reality of, comparably to Alex Ferguson's greatest season in 1999, he would have a long period of time with Stam and Janssen starting as many games as it was possible for them to play. The whole notion of rotation is that it comes into effect when it's not working to a degree. So I think that he's so fearful of his best players getting injured that he's now at a point where he doesn't want to risk them getting injured from the start and getting caught with his trousers down again. And I think it's backfiring on him slightly. Look, I'm still not in the Eric Ten Hag out camp. Excuse me, I've a little bit of a cold, hence the scratching of the nose a lot. I'm certainly not at the point where I think Eric needs to be sacked yet. But there's one thing that did look kind of quite omnipresent in that game last night is that Ruud van Nistelrooy, a la Ronaldo in the 2016 European Championship final, was very agitated behind Ten Hag and very animated in a way that made me think that something may be on the horizon there if things don't work out for Eric between now and December. I don't want Eric to lose his job, but I would be curious to see how Ruud van Nistelrooy would get on. I think that Ruud van Nistelrooy's character has never been in doubt. The way he dealt with PSV towards the end when the club backtracked on some of their promises and didn't help him or help the team progress in the way that he had anticipated, shows a great deal of character, a great deal of integrity, and says a lot about the man. Equally, the way he took this number two job, again, is very self-reflective of what kind of individual and personality he is. Very interesting, very, very, very interesting state of affairs. A betting man, if I was a betting man, I'd be thinking about maybe putting a cheeky 10 or 20 quid on Van Nistelrooy taking over from Ten Hag. I think that if last night's result went differently, we might have had a very different outcome in terms of Ten Hag's long-term future. I feel as if it is a result, I think, that will come back and bite him in the arse. There was a lack of kind of killer instinct or bite in the team last night, and Ten Hag was interviewed in pre-match by alongside Steve McLaren on TNT, and he had his official club blazer on, and he said, "There's only one badge tonight that I'm supporting," and he was tapping the Manchester crest of arms, and his lack of celebration when United scored is in direct conflict with that idea. I know he didn't want to run up and down on the pitch and punch the air, but it was not what I was expecting him to do. I was expecting him to show where his loyalties lie now. Um, Again, the man, I think the man is a very interesting man. He's a very tactically orientated and self aware, astute person. Um, I think that his lack of flexibility in his decision making process sometimes is what lets him down, and I think that's why his team are there, or his team have been replaced because of that, to try and talk him round. Sometimes I think that when he did throw caution to the wind, we had arguably our best result last season, and that was the cup final against Man City. Um, so it makes you wonder. Um, Now that Eric Ten Hag, apart from one or two players, has ostensibly a full squad out there. Look, teething problems. A couple of players coming in. You're waiting for them to bed in. There's a couple of players coming back from injury. Some prospects are looking quite interesting and maybe exciting. But when you look at Xerxes, who ran incredibly hot very quickly and now has gone quite cold. I do like his link-up play when he feels comfortable, but he was totally drowned out last night in that game. Um, Maybe it was the Dutch team, and it was the fact that he might even know some of these kids that he was playing with, and there was a bit of ribbon going on, a bit of psychological warfare. But you have to do better. You have to do better playing against, with respect to the Eredivisie, which I've been following for years. Teams are going out and romping home 8 and 9-0 in the Eredivisie on a regular basis to top 2 and 3 teams. Not so much against FC Twente, but in general terms, they're making a, you know, they're making a show of the lower ranked teams in that league. And even with that, United, you would imagine, would be expected to be an Ajax or a PSV or a Feyenoord on a European night. So we're not playing Real Madrid there, and we didn't have a terrible team out. Some positives. Christian Eriksen's goal was an absolute cracker. It was like, one thing about Eriksen last season and the season before was like, this guy has scored some brilliant goals for Spurs over the years and Inter. Why is he not doing that for us? Um, Obviously, his link-up play and his decisive passing is something that seems to have improved in the short term over the last couple of months, from pre-season all the way through, and he seems to have got a bit of confidence back. He came out and he put in an interview, he said that he was happy to play for the club. He's not sure how much longer that's going to be. But that's somebody that seems to appreciate playing for the club. There's a couple of other players that fall under that category. Ahmad coming out and making statements like that. Martinez similarly understanding, seeing what the club is about and what the fans want to hear. Highland, I wouldn't say it's make or break for him. He's been out injured and he's been very unlucky, and he is that dog that keeps running himself into the ground, and he just needs to be more economical with his energy when he plays. I mean, part of that is the naivety of youth, but he needs to be more efficient, energy efficient, I would say, and wait for things to happen a little bit more than trying to force things to happen, because it seems to be causing him more problems in terms of his fitness. We all love the guy. He's definitely someone that United need, but was there a striker out there, or is there a striker out there for the January transfer market that can solve our problems? There's two strikers out there immediately that spring to mind. I mean, you look at Harry Kane, and we've mentioned him on our podcast on numerous occasions at this point. Um, and it does seem like he was the obvious choice, and we made a huge boo boo missing out on him. Not just once, but there was 2 or 3 seasons where we should have moved heaven and earth to get Harry Kane. It would have been a perfect transfer for Man United, at least in the short term. In the vein of a Van Persie, in the vein of a Ibrahimovic, in the vein of a Larson, it would have made sense. You look at Ivan Toney, who seems to. Now, he's only scored his first 2 goals in the Saudi Pro League during the week, but he got his first brace. But you have to think that he'd be doing. He has the, I suppose, the sack, the confidence to come into that squad and go, I'm the best striker in this team. And we needed someone who would just come in and go, I am the best striker in the league and give me the ball. Whereas there's a bit of ambiguity about who's the, main man at Old Trafford now. There doesn't seem to be, or it's not obvious to me that there's a main man in terms of the goal threat. I do like Xerxes, but he's not. He's a number 10. He's a playmaker, and he's been forced to be a poacher, which is not what he is. Over the last couple of games, and that's telling. But his link-up play is very good. And then you look at, there are other positives. I mean, Ugarte, anything you want, Ugarte. He seems like he knows what he's doing off the ball. He's good at recovering the ball. He's good at making hard yards. He's good at making decision making. He does simple things well in a very Michael Carrick-esque type way. So you have to give credit for that shrewd bit of business. I think he's going to be a really good player for us. You'd have to say that Cobby looked a bit, not pedestrian, but fascinating to think that it's his first European match playing for Manchester United. This is a man who played in a European Championship final last year, and it's his first European game playing for Manchester United. Madness. Unprecedented madness. So look, we all love him. Could it be? I really hope that it's not a case of him being distracted by the attention. I mean, 19-year-old me was very distracted. So, and I think I'm a pretty cool head. So I worry about him. I worry about him in a very Rashford-esque way, insofar as the English media are absolute. They just regularly participate in absolute savagery, build them up, knock them down. A couple of bad games, and he's shite. They did the same recently to Trent Alexander-Arnold at Liverpool, and now all of a sudden he's a godsend again because he's just being played in his correct position and he's having a good run again. I mean, I think Cobby needs to just play football, and I think he needs to be started. I think him coming into a team and coming off the bench doesn't work. He needs to start. I think our best kind of midfield is, Ugarte, Mainu, Garnacho, and Ahmad. Anthony can sign on the welfare, as far as I'm concerned. He does nothing. He brings nothing. I've never seen a player so bereft of confidence and being persisted with. Now, look, I suppose there was a bit of that with Donny van der Beek, with a couple of managers going, he's going to come good, he's going to come good, he's going to come good. And that's very sad for Donny, being a Ballon d'Or shortlisted footballer a few years ago. So that's sad. But the Anthony thing, he's young enough to go and resurrect his career elsewhere. His confidence is gone. It's shot. You can see him coming on, and it's bluster, a lot of bluster, a lot of a lot of kind of unearned confidence, and then it's the same old shtick where he goes down the wing, cuts inside, he loses the ball. Um, it was good that he got that penalty, and then they let him take that penalty for his confidence in the last game. But you would have to say that I think his race is run at the club, and himself and Casemiro. As much as I think Casemiro is a great footballer, I really do. But his legs are gone. They're just gone. They just are. And I commend him for losing a bit of weight and trying to fit back into the system. And I have nothing but gratitude as a United fan for him, doing a job and playing in the back four on and off last season. It's not gone underappreciated. I just don't think he has a place in a dynamic midfield anymore. And that's clear by the Ugarte signing because he's there clearly to replace Casemiro. I think Casemiro would be better served. Clearly, no one can afford him, but would be better served being a bit part player for the rest of the autumn winter period, and maybe something will come up from elsewhere, either going back to Brazil or a payday in Saudi Arabia or China or something like that. He could still do a job and run a midfield somewhere there easily and win a league title. But if you want to compete with the likes of City and Arsenal, he can't come in and make such colossal mistakes like he did against Liverpool. He just can't. If you want to support the show, guys, you can see that little QR code there in the center of the screen. Give that a little scan and become a member. And for that, we're going to be doing various different giveaways. A couple of weeks ago, we gave away 2 free tickets to the Carabao Cup game against Barnsley. And what a game that was. And we will be doing other match giveaways and signed shirts and bits and pieces over the duration of the next couple of months. Also, we're going to have some amazing people coming on the show in the next couple of months. Jay Moddy is going to be joining us in the next couple of days. And then in October, we'll be joined by Irish former world snooker champion Ken Doherty, who'll be talking about his affiliation with the club, his memories of being a Manchester United fan over the years. We'll hear about his relationship with Sir Alex Ferguson, and he'll recount some great stories about when he won the World Championship and he brought the trophy back to Old Trafford. It's going to be a great chat, and we really look forward to that. So that's about it. Don't forget to like and subscribe on Spotify, YouTube on our channel, and support the show. You can become a member or just buy us a coffee. We hope to be doing more stuff over at Old Trafford over the next couple of months as well, if the weather ever lets up. So subscribe, like, share with a Man United fan. Get involved in the comments. What do you think about our 2020 or lack of 2020 vision performance last night? I've been Paul Butler Lennox. You can get me on at Paul Butler Lennox on Instagram and on Facebook. And we hope that you have a great couple of days.